What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jason here at the Cowpot Bros. Come let you guys know that the date for the anniversary episode has been set, and it's going to be Thursday, April the 21st, episode 53. Mark your calendars down for that. It's going to be a good show, and the main thing is we want to hear from you. So make sure you continue to send us your messages via cowpotbros.com, the message button there, cowpotbros@gmail.com, 405-877-BROS, or just hit us up on social media and let us know what you thought about the first year of the Cowpot Bros, what you liked, didn't like, favorite moments, favorite segments, what have you. Make sure you get those to us by Thursday, April the 14th, the week before. So make sure we have it in time to get it in for the show, okay? And no matter what, make sure you remember this. When it comes to all things Cowpot Bros, make sure you like us, love us, share us, and follow us. Because if you like us, why wouldn't you?
Welcome back to the Cowpart Bros podcast. Jason and I are fresh off the segment discussing the wonderful zeitgeist and cultural importance of the Kardashian enterprise.
Or lack thereof.
I knew as soon as it said Kim K this and Kim K that, I was like, oh shit, here we go.
And this just in, Terrence, I've now been banned again on Facebook. So here we go.
I'm shocked. All right. I'm referencing an article in our third segment. This is actually an article related on today.com. Megan Rapinoe on U.S. women's soccer team equal pay agreement. This is a huge win. This is by Scott Stump. A 6-year fight for equal pay has ended in victory for the United States women's national soccer team. The United States women's national team and the United States Soccer Federation announced Tuesday that they've reached an agreement that will resolve a class action gender discrimination lawsuit filed by a group of U.S. women national team stars fighting for equal pay with the U.S. men's national team. The agreement will see U.S. soccer pay the women's national team players a total of $24 million and promise equal pay with the men's team going forward. In the end, it all came together. U.S. star Megan Rapinoe, one of the leaders of the fight, said on Tuesday. For us as players, I'm just so proud of the way we stuck together and it really kind of put our foot down. This is a huge win for us. So that $24 million, Jason. U.S. Soccer is paying $22 million in back pay to settle the claims. And they're setting up $2 million to benefit U.S. women's national team players in their post-career endeavors and charitable efforts. Each player will be allowed to apply for up to $50,000 from that fund. So that's a landmark agreement, dog. And in women's history month of all months, it's important to recognize the fight for equality. And even though this happened in February, it's important because first off, they kicked that shit off 6 years ago. So they've been going back and forth with the U.S. Soccer Federation, the equivalent of almost, a presidency and a half. And so for them to actually win and really level the playing field, I think it's important. And also, they've been outproducing from the perspective of placement in the World Cup. I mean, women's team won the World Cup in 2015. You look at the last 12 plus years, they have outproduced their male counterparts. So this seems like a way to kind of right some wrongs in the past, and the ladies set the stage for future women's players to actually get their just due. So, Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely want to give them their due. They won the World Cup again in 2019 as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's one thing I do want to point out that Megan Rapinoe also said. Let me scroll back down to where it was, but essentially she stated that there's no real justice provided basically this doesn't happen again in the future when it comes to any discrepancies. Because part of that settlement agreement is the Soccer Federation had to agree that going forward, pay will be equal between men and women, including for the World Cup. So obviously that's something they have to stick to. Because importantly, what women were fighting for was 67 million bucks. The settlement was 24, with the agreement of fixing the discrepancy. But yeah, still huge win. To know this fight for them had been in the public eye for a lot of that last 6 years, and I think also too is also going to lead to discussion for the equal pay in other sports as well. Whether or not that helps anything in those other sports, I don't know. But somebody had to be first to be that next step in the fight for equality in women's sports when it comes to pay. And I think the U.S. women's soccer team definitely took a big front in that. So I'm definitely happy for them. Um, but the main thing, like you said, competitively and probably draw wise, they earned it. They deserved it. Me personally, when it comes to soccer, when I do watch it on TV, I'm not watching the men's team. I'm watching the women's team. That's me personally. And I had to imagine, at least in the recent years, going back, like I said, the last two World Cups, they won it. And probably going back a little bit even further, back to '99. I think, if I recall correctly, from watching the World Cups and all the Olympics, that's kind of when the women's team started ascending above the men's team. Back when the '99ers won it, Brady Chastain getting the penalty kick goal and winning it for them. So you can even look back to the fight going back way before that. Maybe not in the courts, but still. And here we are. So yeah, it does make me wonder. I know we're talking about this right now as a step, but it always makes me wonder, like I was just mentioning, what's the next step? What's the next sport? Naturally, the really other sport that's kind of comparable to this when it comes to men and women playing the same sport, the same game equally, is basketball. I know you, and some of our other social media cohorts have opinions on that, but again, definitely a big win, huge step, and we can't wait to see what's next. Um, yeah, especially, man, I won't go there. I'll leave it there. But yeah, this is definitely a big win, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next 6 years. Maybe the women start getting paid more than the men. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think, well, 2 out of 3 topics of this show, dog. We definitely talking labor, and especially when there's been a history in general when women have been told, oh, it's actually frowned upon if you actually ask for what you want or need in a negotiation scenario, for example. It's a good it is a good example of, well, no one's just going to give you what you want / need. You actually got to fight for that. So I think seeing the women's national team, seeing these marquee stars like Megan Rapinoe, that you're starting to see, like, oh, so this is what women's sports looks like when it's actually financed the way it's supposed to be. So I know there are definitely some whack detractors that'll say, like, hey, they're not making the same amount of money, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. They'll certainly do that in other sports, like, for example, the WNBA, ignoring the fact everything that we like or dislike has something to do with the way in which it was marketed to us in the first damn place.
Like, like what do you mean?
Meaning the popularity of certain sports or certain sports, for example, where women are more prominent. Sometimes the marketing dollars were never behind those endeavors. And so, Jason, what I'm saying is that if you level the playing field, not only for pay, but also for marketing opportunities, us as a society might actually start to get into some of these more women's focused um, sports leagues. You know, we looked at the push for the WNBA to be not just a dads and daughters league, for example. Kobe Bryant actually admitted like he thought that was kind of, part of the allure originally, and then he started being a real advocate for the league. And so that's what I'm saying is that when things are actually promoted equally, you might start to change some thoughts and opinions about these games in general.
Yeah, and I guess that we mentioned, or at least I mentioned, and probably you as well a little bit, is that draw is important, right? And I know I mentioned basketball, but tennis also, obviously, that's a sport that's similar in game. Men and women play it. A lot of that pay gaps have been cut down. They ain't perfect yet. A lot of that pay gap's been cut down and different because some of the women's tennis players actually draw as well. I think that's going to be a challenge for the WNBA. Yeah, marketing is important, but the fact that the WNBA, the women's salaries in WNBA, obviously revenue is going to have to be there increased for women to start to get paid more in the league, right? And when I last look at the revenues of WNBA teams, compared, which may be a fair comparison or not, but compared to the NBA, revenues in the WNBA are so much less. I'm not a businessman, so I'm not sure what can be changed about that. I have to look at the numbers, but I guess the number one thing is, TV deals. Are people actually going to games to watch them in person? I know certain teams are getting those draws, but I think that's going to be a challenge for the NBA. They need to get people actually coming to their games, watching their games, so they can get those TV deals, things like that. And that's when they get stuff like that, that's when WNBA's pay will start increasing. But that's going to be the challenge for them, is they got to start drawing people out to come watch. What it's going to take for that, I don't know. Like you said, probably get some good marketing, building stars. Not obviously the WNBA has stars, but who are they? Does a massive sports audience know who these stars are? And that's what you need to start building up. Start them just amongst sports fans, and then you can branch off into the global landscape to the casual fans. For example, the casual fan, or not even a casual fan, just a casual individual, probably knows who LeBron James is, right? Who's the biggest star right now in the WNBA? I have no clue. And why is that? To your point, probably better marketing, right?
It's well, one, you know who LeBron James is because you've been hearing about him since before the day he turned 18.
Because of marketing. Exactly. But you can pick any other star that's not LeBron James who wasn't a big star in high school.
Okay, I will flip that on you. Name one female athlete that you were aware of under 18 that wasn't an Olympian.
I mean, when they were, in the age you're talking about.
Right. You know, my
So
my 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 counterpoint was LeBron James. We listen. We
Serena
have
Williams
okay, okay.
and her sister.
So we had the Williams sisters. That's probably the closest thing as a marketing push at that time. So that's actually a fair comparison. Yeah. Because
Now,
we were told they were going to be good, right?
and also they are absolutely. To be honest with you, they actually may be the only female stars in the game at all. Now, I could be
You're
wrong.
talking. You're trying to say in all of women's sports.
No, well, no. I'm just saying in tennis, though they're probably the only two stars in women's tennis right now. I could be not. I could be forgetting about somebody, but I'd say they're probably the only two superstars. Really, just Serena, really, in tennis right now. Women's tennis right now. I'm sure other people are on the verge of that. Osaka may be one of them, but I think she has other issues she needs to deal with. Um, and I hope she does, by the way. But yeah, that's definitely equal comparison when it comes to Venus and Serena. We knew about them, like I think we knew about Serena specifically back when she was like 15, or if not younger than that. Now, some of that is because of their daddy's, word of mouth marketing. You know what I mean? So he did what he had to do when it comes to that. But their talent on the court matched that by far. Um, and now I will say this is that the WNBA has good basketball players on it. But I think the other challenge they also have to deal with is even though it's the same game of basketball and the rules are very similar, I'm sure there are some that are different. There are some people who are going to watch it who watch the game of the NBA basketball and WNBA basketball and see a difference, and that difference for whatever reason they don't like it, so they're not going to watch it.
Yeah, but that's like saying, well, why the hell am I trying to win over? It'd be like, yeah, I like podcasts. I like listening to podcasts. Except when it happens to be ran by two black people. I'm like, well, I'm not interested in trying to win you over, asshole. Like, that's crazy talk.
Well, I hear you. I agree with you. Those people you may not ever win over, but what I'm saying is, if the overwhelming majority of that is going to be out there, that's what they're going to have to overcome. Now, one thing I will say is what one strategy could be like. Okay, it's like say for you and me, are both in our 40s, and if we were those individuals that had those opinions about the WNBA, yeah, probably not going to change our minds. So maybe what they need to start doing is marketing towards the younger audience, trying to get them to enjoy the game, and hopefully as they grow up, they can start passing that nuance of the game off to their kids. It's just like, and I hate to say this, but back in the day,
Here we go.
Yes, you know what? Yeah, people. Whenever I say I hate to say this, something's coming. But I hate to say this, but cigarette companies back in the day, their marketing that they used to have seemingly favored its way towards marketing towards kids. They'll never admit that, but it seemed that way. I mean, no offense to Joe Camel, but I doubt 40-year-old Bethy across the street was buying cigarettes because of Joe Cool or Joe Camel, whatever. But my
I'm in
point with that
disbelief.
is
I'm in
my
disbelief.
point.
You're comparing the Marlboro Man to the WNBA right now.
But when I get into Marlboro Man, because I can see that that plays an older audience. But what I'm saying is, marketing to the youth isn't a bad thing, because if you can gain their fanhood, you potentially have a fan for life. And if they're a fan for life, there's a good chance that you might pass off that to one of your kids. So maybe that's a strategy they can take advantage of. Because I agree with you, people you're my age that have that opinion of they don't like the game because it's too different, not going to change their mind. But they're going to do something to overcome that, because that's out there. Not saying that's out there for everybody, and not saying that it's just men that feel that way. But that opinion's out there, and that may be partially why the WNBA doesn't do as well. Now, obviously, again, not want to get too far off the subject, because obviously it's a great win for the U.S. soccer women's team. But obviously, we're talking about as a whole women's sports and getting that equality when it comes to equal pay. So women's soccer seems to have gotten there. We're just talking about what's it going to take for other sports getting that equality when it comes to pay. Tennis, like I said, a lot of gaps have been built. May not perfectly be there, according to a lot of articles I saw. NBC is one of them. Check out that article, folks, which is from September. But the biggest challenge obviously is going to be basketball. That's going to be the biggest challenge, I think. And hopefully one day we'll see that difference. But I think it's going to just take a lot of the WNBA getting more revenue drawn in for that pay to even start increasing even a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the revenue part isn't a factor. I think a bigger factor is you've never look at your average run of commercials. You've never seen more faces of women in general in sports. And to your point, you've never seen younger faces related to to children talking about, that's why you have all of these initiatives to get more, just like you've had initiatives to get more uh uh more more kids, um more girls into tech. You're also having more girls stay active, some sort of sports endeavor to keep them active. And so, to your point, I do think that it starts early with the youth. So that absolutely has to be part of any sort of outreach to expand, fandom, but also the next group stars, man.
We'll see what happens. But again, just want to say a huge win for the U.S. women's national team. Kudos to them for this long, at least 6-year fight. Some would say 30-year fight. But at the moment, it seems like they won. And a victory is a victory. I'm sure they'll take it.
All right. That concludes our final segment on the women's soccer equal pay lawsuit. And coming up next, we'll wrap up the show.